There are very few things that will humble you in life. Like Paul Reed Smith sending you a brand new McCarty 594 before the 2024 line drops and asking you, Benny, what do you think? So here's what I think. I had to make sure that these things pull, because you know, I've had Paul Reed Smiths for like 15 years before I was like one day, oh, it splits. Well, Paul Reed Smith, if you're trying to flex that you use the best woods and make some of the most absolutely aesthetically stunning guitars on the planet, yep, Jeanne from Paul Reed Smith got in contact with me and said that she had been watching my videos. She appreciated that I flew the PRS flag high. That's all I've ever wanted, was just to be noticed for my love for Paul Reed Smith. I'll go and say it right now. I think Paul Reed Smith is the best guitar builder of my lifetime. People know what this is just from the silhouette. They don't even need to see the birds because Paul Reed Smith has become ubiquitous. When I first started playing a Paul Reed Smith in 2000, you had to be in Silverchair or Primus to have one. I went to school in downtown Boston, you know, near Berkeley. You did not see kids walking around with Paul Reed Smith cases in 2000. If you had a Paul Reed Smith, people would oogle you like, oh, you must be rich. Now, everyone is playing a Paul Reed Smith because they're one of the best designs. They're just amazing. I love the Strat, I love the Tele. There's no denying that they are the workhorse of the music industry for guitar. Les Pauls, most people don't even think it's a person. They just think Xerox is copying. Les Paul's a guitar. And then all of a sudden, this dude Paul, he wasn't trying to make a better guitar. He was a broke college student that had really nice taste. My dad used to say, Benjamin, you have champagne taste on a beer budget. You can't afford that, Gibson. He didn't know about Paul Reed Smith in like 1995 when he was yelling at me. That was Paul. But the thing is, Paul's a genius. Instead of trying to mow a lawn or do a paper route to save up for that Les Paul, I'm just gonna build it. I'm gonna build my own amp, I'm gonna build my own guitar, I'm gonna use a Dremel to wind my pickups, because I'm Paul Reed Smith. He wasn't trying to make a better wheel, but in many ways, he made a better wheel. I remember Paul saying that he listened to LaGrange from ZZ Top. Billy Gibbons uses a Strat for one solo and a Les Paul for another solo. You can hear it. Why not do that with one guitar? That was the problem he was trying to solve in the market. From very early people like Ted Nugent and Peter Frampton and Howard Leese, Santana, people started getting the memo. This is a thing. That's what I love about Paul. You watch all these videos of him, you can tell, you can feel his energy. He's constantly trying to innovate. You can hear his brain just going, Urgh! Which is why I'm very excited to talk about this brand new 2024 McCarty 594 in this beautiful McCarty Tobacco Sunburst. This line just dropped 36 hours ago. For you. In fact, I had to make an agreement where I couldn't tell anybody about this until now. Paul, what's the point if I can't brag to other people that I'm better than them because you sent this to me first? Just kidding. I'm not better than anybody. Maybe better than Ezra. What's different about this guitar? It has something called hybrid hardware. Now, Jeanne from PRS, I don't know you very well, but I just want to say, I love you. Whatever this is, let's keep it going, okay? She sent me this long email explaining this hybrid hardware. Paul has been known to say that anything that touches the string is God. This means tuning machines play a large part in the guitar's tone. For 2024, PRS Guitars is updating the tuning machines of many of our core guitars. The new wing button is designed to be lightweight, contributing to the musicality of the guitar as a whole. The button design started all the way back in 1982 when Paul drew his first full guitar. While aesthetically, these new wing buttons are designed to echo the 12-fret bird wingspan design, they were first and foremost designed for tonal reasons. Because these buttons are lighter weight than their metal predecessors, they are subtracting less energy from the vibrating strings, thus helping the guitar ring longer and add a more musical note. This is the hybrid hardware that he's talking about. It's this lighter plastic material. It is supposed to emulate the 12-fret bird wingspan. So, woo! 12-fret bird. Oh, look, it's flying. If there's one thing that Paul Reed Smith is better at than building a guitar, it's marketing. I agree with Paul. Brian May from Queen, he uses a silver coin to pick. And the sound of silver when it hits the strings is different than copper, is different than plastic, even if you use different types of plastic. And it's all about energy transference. If I'm crazy and I project my energy at you, maybe I will be that obnoxious voice in your head that reminds you of all these things that make the Paul Reed Smith better. He's so confident. He's just like, well, this is just the way it is, and that's how pickups are, and you know, it's just how sound is. Yeah, because he's a genius, and he's the guy purveying the information, so when he markets things, like this hybrid technology, the fact that these tuners are lighter, they're just plastic, but he's not wrong that having these type of tuners could absolutely, on a scientific level, make sense. It says ring longer and have more of a musical sound to it. We've talked about the law of diminishing returns on this channel. These tuning buttons to the metal predecessor, while they may make a difference on a histogram showing the entire spectrum of sound, I, in playing this for a few days, could not hear any difference from this Paul Reed Smith with the Phase 1 tuners, from this Paul Reed Smith with the lock-in tuners, from this Paul Reed Smith with different lock-in tuners, from this Paul Reed Smith. I'm just saying I didn't hear any difference because if my guitars rang for any longer than they already do, I'd return them because they were broken. If you look at this 1986 PRS, notice anything? It looks an awful lot like this 2024 PRS. It's kind of like the Fender Stratocaster. Leo Fender nailed it. Paul Reed Smith, 1986. Paul Reed Smith, 1988. Paul Reed Smith, 1989. Paul Reed Smith, 1990. It's not that I love red, they come to me. 2005, they're the same freaking guitar! I am ignoring this. Here's my 1988 2024. You got the short heel. I take it back. He did change the heel of the guitar in 1991. It went from the short heel to the long heel. There's reasons for it all because Paul is an empirical guy based on science. He designs for practicality. He designs for necessity. He's a Thomas Edison. He's another Les Paul. One of the reasons that Paul has become such a prolific builder and incredible designer is because of his relationship with Ted McCarty, who was the president of Gibson in the 50s. And the reason that you see the Les Paul, the first time I ever had a phone call with Paul Reed Smith was about Les Paul. And he actually asked me, do you see any of the US patents at Les Paul's place? I did. Well, yeah, they weren't the originals because Ted McCarty gave them to me. They're in my desk. He loved what Ted McCarty did so much that he tracked the dude down because he was looking at all these different patents and his name just kept coming up. Who's this Ted McCarty fellow? And if you haven't watched any of my other episodes, Ted McCarty was there when Seth Lover and Walter Fuller patented the PAF pickup. Ted McCarty was the guy that got the designer from Detroit that designed the Modern, that designed the Flying V, that designed the Explorer. Ted McCarty was at Gibson for arguably the greatest period in their history, the golden era. So Paul said, I want to know what this guy knows. Ted, will you come out to my factory? Can't, Paul. I'm blind, but you could come to me. So Paul came to Ted McCarty and he grilled him. How did they put the tops on them back in the day? How did they glue in the frets? What did they do? What did it smell like over there? What kind of coffee did they drink? What was going on? Impart your knowledge, Mr. McCarty, on me, Paul Reed Smith. He says that Ted actually got angry one time because Paul was the first person in a very long time to take the time to ask Ted, like, what was going on during the greatest time of Gibson. It's a proverb. Give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. Teach a Paul Reed Smith to build a guitar and he'll innovate forever. So in 1994, Paul came out with the first McCarty as a tribute to his buddy Ted, one of the greatest innovators in the history of guitar. The original McCarty, and this is a McCarty soap bar, had the toggle down there. So there's the heel, and now we have the toggle, because if there's anything that I lament about is this silly rotary switch. Now I'm not saying I don't want 5 options, but I'm saying I don't want 5 options. That's too much for me, and I get lost. So being able to go, is everything to me. I love this. This is so simple, and it looks amazing on this guitar. I was also wondering what was different about this thing, and I realized out of 40 Paul Reed Smiths, I have one with binding. And man, does that make this thing look awesome. So you have a 10 top, beautiful Tobacco McCarty Sunburst finish on this. This two-tone bridge and tailpiece. You got these 5815 pickups, which we'll get into. Absolutely beautiful. Your toggle switch up in your normal Les Paul location, which for me, I love that. That's everything. You have a beautiful rosewood fretboard with these abalone birds. And look, binding on a PRS. And this headstock with the rosewood face. It's just gorgeous with this giant Paul Reed Smith logo. And the McCarty 594. Technically, guys, this was made in 23. You have the hybrid tuners that are supposed to emulate the 12 fret wingspan. And look at that back. The mahogany is just gorgeous. The non-10 top version of this retails for $4,400 MAP. And this is gonna be $5,400 if you want the 10 top. On a Les Paul, you have a 24.75. On a Stratocaster, you have a 25 5 scale. On a normal Paul Reed Smith, on your standard fare custom 24s, you're gonna have a 25-inch scale. This has a 24.594 scale. I didn't notice the difference as far as the musicality and the ringing of the hybrid tuners. I wasn't missing it in the first place. Canada Dry, so delicious. Wish they would just send me some of this beautiful cranberry ginger ale. I think it makes me play better. Now, something interesting in this guitar are the 5815s, because what they're supposed to be reimagining is the 1958 era PAF pickup. 58 stands for 1958, as in that's the era of PAF that he's going for that character. And 15 stands for 2015, because 2015 was when he made these pickups. Not only are people fanatical about PAS, people like Paul Reed Smith are fanatical about recreating that sound. So much so that Paul actually sourced the machine that made the wire for all those early Gibson and Fender pickups. Yeah, he has that machine. It's light. It's gotta be 7 pounds. I love it. So let's go plug it in. So basically this is PAFs, or PAF clones, in a Paul Reed Smith, and I have nothing but love for it. This thing really plays amazing. And I have to tell you, I'm a little bit taken back. I am just not used to looking down at a Paul Reed Smith with binding. I just love it. And it's cool because the plastic actually matches the color of the binding. So, you know, I kind of like that bone look, whatever this hybrid plastic is. That sounds awesome. It's kind of have like this duckiness that you get from PAS. It's got that quackity quack when you split it. 50 years, people are going to be talking about these Paul Reed Smiths the way that we talk about 1959 Les Pauls. And it's going to be people like us, and they're going to be like, the Generation Y and the Generation Z, those people know nothing. I have to say that this thing is awesome. So thank you, Paul Reed Smith, for sending me this guitar. Go to the link in my description. You can get it through Sam Ash. So I guess we better just see if these hybrid tuners work. They work. Why don't you smash that subscribe button already?